It's a great day in South Florida. My name is Chris Igo. Today we're going to get right after it because the truth is, Florida home prices are about to drop a lot. And I'm going to get granular into what that means, but I'm also going to get very specific as to which markets that I'm talking about. Because in most instances, they're looking at national stats, which might be somewhat helpful in understanding what the trends are from a 5,000-foot overview. But those national averages have nothing to do with what's happening in hyper-local markets. And so when people talk about the real estate market, what they really typically mean is their hyper-local market or the hyper-local market that they're looking to buy in, which definitively is going to be different from whatever the national average is, and is very likely to be definitively different than any other market in the bigger market, which I guess is a long way of saying that there are many markets within the market that exist out there. And the temperature and intensity of each of those markets is going to be completely different and totally variable. And everything is going to be based on supply and demand, no matter what market you're in, which is also a long way of saying if you're looking at some of the data that's published by the MLS or by a city or by Redfin or by Zillow or by any content creator or by any other information provider, chances are it's not going to be very helpful in the market that you're actually shopping in. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. And if you're a returning viewer, then I appreciate your participation in our journey. And I've said since day one, I will always be totally transparent and share the truth in real time so that you can go out there and make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. I've done a ton of content talking about the housing market dynamics that exist down here in South Palm Beach County. And I also talk about other markets too, but for today, I'm getting hyper local, very granular, and super focused. And I'm speaking exclusively to my hyper local market, the zip code of 33473, which is a pretty big market. And it's primarily composed of the canyons in Boynton Beach. All of those neighborhoods are part of this zip code. Now, also included in our market are some luxury 55 plus communities. And all of these communities are very similar in that they were all built by GL Homes. And although this is a hyper local, very specific market update, in fact, this is the canary in the coal mine, this is the warning. And typically in the real estate market, there are no warnings, which is unfortunate because in my past career as a stockbroker, if a company was coming out with bad numbers, they would warn about those bad numbers. And in their guidance, they would talk about what the future looks like. Now, while there are many content creators out there that are talking about what the future might look like, I've yet to find anybody who's talking about the hyper local market the way I am. And I'm not going to go ahead and try to break my arm to pat myself on the back, but I made a commitment I would always tell the truth. The truth is, while everybody knows that the market has shifted for many different reasons, the economic conditions, inflation running rampant, mortgage interest rates pushing 8% and trending higher, affordability is a real issue. But up until just recently, there was no pattern or trend that I could point to which confirmed depreciating prices, which is what we're going to drill deep on today. And I can promise you the last thing a homeowner wants to hear is that their home is worth less than what they think it's worth. But my job is not to tell people what they want to hear. It's to tell them the truth so they can make the best decision for themselves, for their family, and for their financial bottom line. Real estate is a relationship business, which is why it's important to work with a real estate professional that's very well connected within the real estate community that they work in and has great relationships with all of those professionals. Because every real estate professional wants to work with someone else that they've worked with in the past that is also a professional and makes it a smooth, clean, easy transaction for everyone. But in addition to that, having great relationships with other realtors in the community gives you access to a lot of information that you probably wouldn't have any other way. And so with that in mind, I got a phone call this week from a realtor who has a listing in one of the canyons. And I'm being intentionally vague because I want to protect the anonymity of all the parties involved. This agent knows I sell a lot of real estate within the canyons, and he wanted my opinion as to why his listing has not sold. He wanted to know if there was anything he had quote unquote done wrong, which he hadn't. And then separate to that, he asked if there was anything that he could do differently. So I took a little bit of time to analyze his particular situation relative to the rest of the hyper-local market. And of course, I asked him some questions about the seller, the seller's wants, the seller's needs, the seller's financial condition, and specifically what must happen. And I asked those questions specifically to determine whether the seller absolutely must sell. Because the truth is, there are plenty of people right now out there in the market. And when I say market now, I'm talking about every market where home sellers think they're playing the lottery. They're not particularly motivated to sell. They want to test the market and see what they can cash in at. And in my experience, when that's happening, they typically highly overprice the home and it doesn't sell. And so I asked that question to determine whether this is someone who must be reality based or if this is somebody who's out there in fantasy land. And I put myself in his shoes because the truth is, if I had a listing and the seller was not actually motivated to sell and they were just in fantasy land, I'd cancel the listing and give them several other options to pivot to, wish them the best, and hope they find success elsewhere. But I would know in my heart there's 0% chance that that home would ever sell. And then separate to that, if this is a person who must sell, I would be brutally honest about where the home must be priced in order for it to sell. Because as we trend into November and into the elections and into the new bad economic news, which is definitely coming, and we know that we've got a hawkish Fed, which is very likely to radically increase the Fed funds rate, which is going to make mortgage rates even higher. And if you've been watching for a while, you know that I've been talking about the fact that I believe we'll be looking at 10% mortgage interest rates relatively soon. In full disclosure, I could be dead wrong. The Fed potentially could totally pivot. They could start quantitative easing again. They could do a lot of different things, none of which would be good or healthy, but it would absolutely stimulate the demand and stimulate the real estate market, and we'd be off to the races once again. But for today, right now, that does not look very likely to happen. Nonetheless, I did spend the time and I did do the analysis so I could help my friend advocate for his client the right way. And when I did the research and I looked at the history of the listing and listings, and I say listings because it's been on the market a long time with other realtors too, but what we clearly have is an overpriced listing that's been sitting on the market for a very long time, which has a pattern of price reductions, none of which were big enough to get the house sold. And while I won't go granular into what those price reductions were, I will say they started at over $1 million. And right now they're sitting closer to 900,000. And I could tell my friend was getting a little bit nervous and a little bit uneasy about the truth that I was about to tell him, which at that point he didn't even know yet. And the inconvenient truth that I had to share with him is that a very similar home, almost the exact same home, was just reduced to $825. And by the way, that home has also been sitting on the market for the last 60 days. And so now we've got a panicked seller who thought his home was worth $1.1 million, desperately needing to hear the truth that there is direct competition that is a home exactly like his on the market for $825. And I don't know that it's going to sell there, but that's the truth. And that's what he needs to hear. And while there are still a lot of people out there that are thinking about selling, most people are not going to take action until they feel economic pain, until they lose their jobs, until they're at financial risk. And not everybody is going to be in that situation, but some people are. And I don't know whether this applies to that particular home seller or not. And I don't want to pretend I know, but I do know if you thought your home was worth $1.1 million and you find out that your home is probably worth less than $825, you are not going to be happy. But the truth is, most agents in my market don't even have a clue about what's happening in the micro markets. In fact, most of them don't even know what's happening in the overall market, which the MLS spoon feeds to us in a monthly report. But if you look at the report, and I'm going to pop it into the video, what you'd see is that the Boynton Beach housing market looks great. Yes, supply and demand has changed, but overall, on paper, it looks pretty good. Median sales price up almost 19%, average sales price up almost 17%. The month supply of inventory is up 118%, but it's still a seller's market. There's only 2.4 months of inventory. Well, if this is the information that's governing your decision-making process as a real estate professional, you don't know anything. You're totally clueless as to what's actually happening right now in the markets. And the markets, plural, because there are so many of them, within the big market that is South Palm Beach County. But if you don't know what's going on, then you can't advocate for your clients the right way and tell people the truth that they must hear. And the truth is, The trend is not our friend. And so while the Fed is out there saying that at some point in the future, there's going to be economic pain and that the housing market needs a reset, it hasn't happened yet. But within the Canyons community, the hyper-local market that I serve, and full disclosure, these numbers are a little bit skewed because, again, it also includes some of these luxury 55 plus communities. But the bulk of this inventory, the bulk of this data relates to the Canyons enclave, which again is Canyon Trails, Canyon Springs, Canyon Lakes, and Canyon Isles. And the truth is that in September, which again is a lagging number, this is last month, we're now in October. And actually, we're not even in October, we're at the start of November. So you can bet that October numbers are going to be worse. And I want to be clear, this first number is the average for sale price, not sold. To be clear, both numbers are on the downtick. The average for sale price in the Canyons is down 1% compared to the previous month, and it's down 7% compared to the previous year. But that's the for sale price. The sold price is the more interesting metric and the most relevant metric if you're thinking about selling and tapping into the equity, which you have right now. The average sold price is down 12.2% in September compared to the previous month. 12.2% to the downside from the previous month. That's the truth. And you need to know the truth in order to make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. And I'm committed to always telling you the truth. But to go ahead and spin that and give you a glass half full analysis, the average sold price is still up 10% relative to the same month last year. Now, to be clear, this is a hyper-local snapshot. And when I look at some other communities that are similar to mine, those trends are not the same. Those sales prices and those sold prices are appreciated. And I'm talking specifically about the Western communities in Delray Beach and Boca Raton, because all of those communities are relatively similar in that they are recently built, most of them by GL Homes. They're newer, they're luxury, they're high price point, and they're in high demand, or at least some are more than others. And I'll do content focusing on those areas too, so please be on the lookout for that. And I also want to address a subject that a lot of people ask me questions about, which is the new construction that's happening in Boca in the brand new community of Lotus Palm. And I've done a ton of content on Lotus Palm, so if you're interested in learning more about that, then please check out the playlists which are on the channel. But the new construction in Lotus Palm, which you have to win a lottery to be able to even buy a home, sold out almost instantly. And GL is still out there aggressively pursuing more agricultural or preserve land to build new communities. So demand for luxury new construction in Boca Raton, Delray Beach, or Boynton Beach is still very high. But is that a constant? Yet to be determined. I don't know. And I've made the argument that I believe that this particular region is more insulated than other markets because they tend to be more affluent communities. But I could be dead wrong. But the truth is, home prices are about to drop a lot. Now, I hope you found this content valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend. If you've got any questions or concerns, leave them down in the comments below, and I promise I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And obviously, if we can serve or support you in any way, shape, or form, then please connect with me immediately. And I also know that most of you who watch these videos are not local in my market. If you're looking for a real estate or mortgage professional that we know, like, and trust, that can serve and support you at the highest level, no matter where you're at, then please opt in for a referral and we will set you up right away. And check out my next video because I suspect you'll love it a lot. And until next time,